The planet Zerthia was a world of calm. Its sky shimmered with green and violet streaks, and the air was thick with sweet-smelling vapors that floated gently over the mountains. The alien inhabitants, the Zirans, had never seen a human before. They were a cautious species, intelligent but careful, always observing before acting. They had never encountered another civilization that could walk across the stars with ease. When the humans arrived, they came in a sleek silver ship that glided across Zerthia's blue oceans like a silver fish. Ziran monitors detected the ship before it even touched down. The aliens held an emergency meeting. "Prepare the observation squads," said Director Thalrek, his 4 eyes narrowing. "We do not know their intentions. They could be dangerous." The humans stepped out in a calm and confident manner. They were shorter than the Zirans had expected, with soft skin, bright eyes, and a strange way of moving that seemed almost playful. But what caught the Zirans' attention most were the creatures that followed the humans. These creatures were small, furry, and walked on 4 legs. Their bodies were covered in thick, soft hair, but their claws glinted sharply in the sunlight and their teeth looked long and pointed. One creature jumped up and waved its claw playfully at the Zirans. Instant panic spread among the alien observers. "Alert! Alert!" shouted one. "They carry dangerous weapons on their bodies." "They must be attacking." The humans laughed lightly. One stepped forward and raised her hands in a peaceful gesture. "Please, they won't harm you," she said. Her voice was calm, and somehow it made the Zirans hesitate. Director Thalrek's antenna twitched nervously. "That thing has fangs and claws. They are clearly a threat." The human smiled. "These are pets. They are trained to be gentle. Their claws are sharp, yes, but they only use them when needed for play or protection. You don't need to worry." Still, the Zirans could not calm themselves. They had never seen a creature with such dangerous features being handled so casually. In their culture, any being with claws or teeth like that would be considered a predator, and immediately avoided or locked away. One of the creatures, a small brown one with bright eyes, bounded forward, its claws extended. It sniffed at a Ziran observer's foot. The Ziran leapt back in terror, bumping into another. Chaos erupted in the observation hall. The humans did not move quickly. They knelt down slowly and called the creatures back. "Rico Luma, sit!" 2 of the creatures obeyed immediately, curling up beside their humans. The brown one paused, then looked at its human and obeyed as well. The Zirans stared. "They obey." "Instantly?" whispered one young scientist. "How is this possible?" "They could tear through our defenses in seconds," the humans explained carefully. "On Earth, we have trained them since they were young. They understand commands and respect humans and those we trust. Their instincts are strong, but their minds are guided by love and training." The concept was strange to the Zirans. "Guided by love?" Director Thalrek repeated, his antenna quivering. "This makes no sense. On Zerthia, no predator can be trusted no matter how it is raised. Their instincts always come first." "That is true here too," one human replied. "But we teach them to make choices. Their instincts remain, but we guide them with patience. It works." The Zirans remained unconvinced, but curiosity began to rise alongside fear. They led the humans to a central observation hall, where they could study the creatures more closely. The humans followed calmly, allowing the creatures to roam freely but quietly. The creatures sniffed, explored, and occasionally twitched their claws in excitement but never attacked. A young Ziran scientist, Cyrell, stepped forward hesitantly. "May I touch them?" she asked. Her 4 eyes flicked nervously between the creatures. "Of course," said the human. "They won't hurt you if you are gentle." She picked up a creature with golden fur. Its claws were sharp, yet it immediately curled up in her arms. Cyrell extended a hand. The creature sniffed her fingers, then licked her palm. She gasped in surprise. It is soft. Its claws, they are sharp, but it does not attack." The human smiled. "They see no reason to attack. They are curious, playful, and loyal. They are friends." Director Thalrek watched from above. "This is impossible. Something so dangerous in appearance and yet so calm. How can this be? Our sensors say their claws are deadly. Their teeth are sharp. Any wrong move and..." He trailed off, unable to finish the thought. One human laughed softly. "That's why humans raise them carefully. We teach respect and they respond in kind." Suddenly, one creature, a small gray one with bright amber eyes, climbed onto the edge of a control console. It swiped its claw playfully at a screen, sending it sliding to the floor. The alarms blared. "Attack!" "They are attacking our systems," shouted a Xeran guard. The humans rushed forward. "No, Rico, stop!" The creature froze, then looked at its human, blinking. It hopped down quietly, tail wagging as if nothing had happened. The Xerans were astounded. "It stopped? Instantly?" muttered one. "How is this possible?" The humans explained again, showing how the creatures respond to voice commands, hand signals, and gentle touches. The Xerans slowly began to relax, though fear still lingered. Sorel knelt down and observed the creatures closely. "I have never seen anything like this," she said. "They are small yet powerful, sharp yet gentle. How do humans control such contradictions?" The human smiled. "We do not control them. We guide them. They have choices. We teach them when to act and when to rest, and we love them." The Xerans had no word for love as humans understood it. Their relationships were functional and practical, not emotional. This concept was foreign, yet it seemed to make the creatures even more obedient. As the day passed, the humans and creatures moved through the observation halls, demonstrating calm behavior, playful tricks, and gentle obedience. Slowly, the Xerans began to take notes, trying to understand, but even as they studied, tension remained. The creatures' claws still gleamed, their teeth still looked sharp, and every twitch of a tail or ear set off small alarms. Some Xerans could not believe that a creature so potentially dangerous could be harmless. Finally, as the sun set over Zarthia, the humans gathered their creatures. They stood in a circle and called out commands. The creatures responded perfectly, sitting, rolling, and hopping in playful patterns. Sorel watched, wide-eyed. "They are incredible," she whispered. "I do not understand them, but they are amazing." Director Thalrek remained cautious. "We must continue observation," he said. "But humans, you may stay. For now." The humans nodded politely. "Thank you. We come in peace, and our creatures mean no harm. They are companions, not weapons." As the humans and their creatures rested for the night, a small golden creature curled up beside a Xeran guard, licking his hand. The guard froze, unsure what to do, then slowly reached out and patted the creature. The creature purred softly. It was a quiet moment, but a powerful one. The Xerans had never seen this. Creatures that seemed deadly yet gentle, dangerous yet loyal, and humans who could walk among them calmly, showing love and understanding in a way the Xerans could barely grasp. That night, Zarthia slept under strange skies, filled with green and violet light. The humans rested among the Xerans, their creatures by their side. And somewhere deep in the hearts of the aliens, curiosity began to replace fear. But none of them knew what was coming next. For these small, adorable creatures had instincts that were sharp and deadly, and soon, the Xerans would witness their true abilities. And when that day came, the story of humans and their monsters would be remembered across the stars. The next morning, Xerthia's twin suns rose slowly, casting long shadows across the alien research station. The humans were already awake, walking among their creatures as they stretched, played, and explored. Their movements were calm, natural, and completely at ease. The Xerans watched from the observation decks, curiosity mixed with caution. Sorel, the young Xeran scientist, had spent the night thinking. She could not stop watching the creatures. Every twitch of their tails, every playful leap, seemed carefully controlled. Yet their claws and teeth glinted with dangerous potential. How could anything so sharp and potentially deadly be safe? She decided to approach the humans again. "May I observe them closely?" she asked, her antennae quivering. "Of course," replied a human with a warm smile. "Come, they are friendly." Sorel knelt, keeping her distance at first. One creature, a small gray one with golden eyes, approached her cautiously. It sniffed the air around her and then slowly touched her hand with its paw. She froze. Its claws were sharp, but it did not hurt her. Instead, it nudged her gently. "They obey you even without commands," she whispered. The human nodded. "They understand feelings. They can sense if you are afraid or calm. It helps them decide how to respond." Sorel watched as another creature, a tiny brown one with bright ears, climbed onto a low wall and waved its claws playfully. Nearby, a Xeran guard jumped back instinctively. "Careful," he shouted. The human laughed. "Relax, they are not dangerous if you stay calm." Despite the humans' reassurances, the Xerans were still uneasy. Every twitch of a claw or flick of a fang made them step back. The station's alert systems were sensitive, and even small movements set off minor alarms. The humans ignored them. They were confident that nothing would go wrong. Later, in a demonstration hall, the humans showed how the creatures were trained. They moved in perfect harmony, following commands from a distance. Sit, roll, jump, fetch, each command was obeyed instantly. The creatures performed flips and spins, wagging their tails and purring in satisfaction. One of the creatures, a golden one with soft fur, leapt onto a table and gently placed its paw on a glowing orb. It stared at the orb, tilted its head, and then carefully nudged it toward the human. The human clapped and said, "Good job, Luma." The Xerans watched astonished. "How is this possible?" muttered one. "They have strength, sharp claws, and yet they move so carefully. They could destroy this equipment in an instant, and yet they choose not to," Sorel finished softly. A commotion suddenly erupted. One of the creatures, a small gray one named Rico, darted toward a control console and swiped its claw across a touch panel. Alarms rang loudly. Several Xerans jumped back. The human stepped forward calmly. "Rico, sit!" The creature froze, then obediently curled up beside the human. The alarm stopped. The Xerans stared in disbelief. "They stopped instantly?" one of the guards asked. "Even when they could have destroyed the system?" "Yes," the human replied. "They trust us. They listen because they choose to." The Xerans were beginning to understand something new. These were not just creatures, they were partners. Partners with instincts but guided by intelligence and trust. Sorel decided to take a risk. She reached out her hand slowly to Rico. The creature sniffed her fingers, then gently licked her hand. Her antenna quivered with excitement. It is soft," she whispered, "and gentle. Yet those claws," she looked closely. "They could rip through metal, but it does not." "How?" the human smiled. "Because they respect life. They are trained, yes, but more than that. They understand boundaries. They know when to use their strength and when to hold back." The Xerans were fascinated, but still nervous. They had never seen predators or dangerous creatures respond so calmly. On Xerthia, a sharp claw was always a weapon. A tooth was always deadly. Here, everything was different. Suddenly, one creature jumped onto a table and began exploring a small device. It sniffed, pawed, and tapped carefully. One of the Xeran technicians gasped. "It is manipulating it. It knows what to do." The human laughed softly. "They are clever. They learn quickly, and they are curious. That is part of what makes them so wonderful." Another human called to the creatures. "Luma, fetch!" The golden creature ran to a small box, picked it up gently, and brought it back. The Xerans whispered among themselves. "This is incredible," said Sorel. "It has strength, sharp claws, sharp teeth, but it does not harm anything unless it is necessary." The humans then explained more about Earth. They told the Xerans how humans had lived with similar creatures for thousands of years. Each creature had its own personality, and humans raised them with care, patience, and kindness. "But what if they get angry?" asked one Xeran guard. "Their claws are dangerous. What if they attack us?" The human smiled gently. "If you show fear, they may react. But if you stay calm and treat them kindly, they will not hurt you. They understand emotion." Sorel tilted her head. "They feel emotions?" "Yes," said the human. "Curiosity, excitement, joy, trust, even love. And they respond to it. That is why they seem so dangerous at first. Their instincts are sharp, but their hearts are even sharper." The day passed slowly, filled with demonstrations, careful observations, and growing understanding. Yet the Xerans still struggled with fear. They could see the creature's sharp claws and teeth, and every twitch reminded them of potential danger. Then, as evening approached, an accident happened. A small creature accidentally knocked over a vial of glowing liquid. It rolled across the floor, shattering against the wall. Alarms rang throughout the station. The Xerans panicked. "Contain it. Contain the danger," shouted a technician. The humans moved calmly. "Everyone stay calm." "Rico, stop!" The creature froze instantly, then sat quietly. The humans quickly cleaned the mess and reassured the Xerans. The aliens looked at the humans in awe. "Even when there is danger." "They obey?" asked Sorel. "Yes," said the human. "They are trained, but more importantly, they trust us. And we trust them." It was a lesson that the Xerans could not fully understand yet. Trust and respect were not part of their culture in the same way. But they could see its effects. The creatures, razor claws and all, were gentle, loyal, and obedient. By nightfall, the humans and their creatures had won over some of the Xerans' hearts. One young guard, who had been the most nervous, found a small brown creature curled up beside him. Hesitantly, he reached out a hand. The creature licked it softly. The guard's antenna twitched with surprise. It is not attacking me," he whispered. "No," said the human softly. "It would never. Not unless you hurt it or someone it cares about." Sorel watched quietly, fascinated. She realized that the humans had something the Zirans did not fully possess: empathy, understanding, and the ability to communicate not just with words but with trust. And the creatures, they were not monsters. They were partners. Little did the Zirans know these small, seemingly adorable creatures had instincts that were razor-sharp, instincts that could protect humans from even the deadliest threats. And soon, they would see why humans called them adorable even as aliens panicked at their claws. That night, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, the station was quiet. Humans sat with their creatures laughing softly, while Zirans observed, still wary, still amazed. A new understanding had begun, but it was only the first step. For tomorrow, the Zirans would witness something they could never have imagined: a test of instinct, loyalty, and courage that would show the true strength of humans and their companions. And the creatures, razor claws and all, would prove that appearances could be deceiving. The following morning, the sky over Zerthia was clear, and the twin suns rose with gentle warmth. The Zirans watched the humans and their creatures move through the station, still amazed by how calm and careful they were. The small furry creatures were playful, obedient, and curious, but the Zirans did not yet realize the depth of their abilities. Suddenly, an alarm blared across the station. It was not caused by the creatures this time. Sensors detected a large, fast-moving entity approaching from the forests outside. It was a predator native to Zerthia, a beast that even Ziran soldiers feared. Its body was enormous, covered in thick, armor-like scales, and its multiple jaws snapped as it moved. Director Thalrek ordered the defense teams to prepare, but panic had already spread. The predator was faster than expected, and it was heading straight for the research station. The humans calmly observed the situation. One of them spoke softly to the creatures. "Rico, Luma, stay alert. Help us protect them." The creatures' ears twitched, their tails swished, and their eyes glowed with alertness. The Zirans gasped. They will fight it?" whispered Sorel. "Yes," the human said simply, "but they will protect, not attack without reason. Watch carefully." The predator reached the station's outer perimeter. It roared, a sound so loud that the ground trembled. The Zirans froze in fear. Their weapons were ready, but the humans did not flinch. Instead, they released their creatures. In an instant, the small creatures darted forward. Their claws glinted sharply and their speed was astonishing. They moved like shadows, circling the predator carefully. Each creature used precise movements, avoiding the predator's massive jaws, while striking at weak points in its armor-like scales. The Zirans could hardly believe their eyes. They are so small. How can they fight that?" One guard gasped. The humans watched calmly. "They use their instincts, but they listen to guidance," said one. "They know when to strike and when to retreat." Rico, the gray creature, leapt onto the predator's back and used its sharp claws to scratch at the joints of its armor. The predator thrashed violently, but the creatures moved too quickly to be caught. Luma, the golden one, bit at the predator's legs, causing it to stumble. The brown creatures nipped at its tail, distracting it further. The Zirans scrambled to act, realizing they had never seen such coordination. They are controlling it," Sorel exclaimed. "But how? They are so small." The humans did not answer directly. They moved with calm authority, issuing simple commands, guiding the creatures while keeping themselves and the Zirans safe. The predator roared in frustration, but could not land a single attack on any human or creature. A human jumped onto a small platform and waved her hands, signaling the creatures to form a circle around the predator. Instinctively, the creatures obeyed. The predator was surrounded on all sides. Every attempt to strike was blocked by the quick, precise movements of the small creatures. The Zirans watched in awe. "They are using strategy," one muttered. "They are thinking, not just attacking?" The predator made a sudden charge at the humans, but the creatures anticipated it. They leapt and swiped, blocking the attack and forcing the predator to stumble into a containment area designed for large alien wildlife. The humans guided it gently but firmly into the enclosure. The station was safe. The predator roared from behind the barriers, but it was trapped. The humans and their creatures stood calmly, breathing lightly, tails wagging, eyes alert but controlled. The Zirans could not stop staring. Director Thalrek's 4 eyes widened. I do not understand, he whispered. Small creatures. Razor claws, and yet they protected the humans. And the station burned from that. Giant predator. One of the humans stepped forward. They are not monsters, she said quietly. They are guardians. They understand trust, respect, and loyalty. That is why they can do what no alien weapon could. Cyrell slowly approached one of the creatures, a small golden one, and reached out her hand. It sniffed her fingers, then curled up beside her, purring softly. It saved us, she whispered. And yet, it is gentle. How can this be? The human smiled. It is a balance of instinct and guidance. On Earth, humans and these creatures work together for thousands of years. We trust them and they trust us. That is what makes them so powerful. The Zirans were amazed, but the lesson was not lost. They realized that appearances could be deceiving. What seemed small and harmless could be deadly in the right hands or paws, when combined with intelligence and guidance. After the predator was secured, the humans and their creatures returned to the station. They moved through the corridors calmly, checking on the Zirans and making sure everyone was safe. Some Zirans were trembling, not from fear of the predator anymore, but from astonishment at what they had witnessed. Cyrell gathered her courage and asked, "Why did you not fear it yourselves?" The human looked thoughtful. "Fear does not help. Calmness, understanding, and planning do. Our creatures know how to act because we trust them, and we act carefully because we know them." The Zirans slowly began to see a pattern. The humans' confidence was not arrogance. It was knowledge. They knew their companions, they knew their strengths, and they knew how to work together, and that combination made them unstoppable, even against a threat far larger and stronger than any of them. The creatures, meanwhile, returned to the humans, curling up at their feet or rubbing against their hands. They were playful, loyal, and loving. Yet in the moments of danger, they had been fierce, precise, and unyielding. Director Thalrek finally spoke. I have underestimated humans, he admitted. And these creatures, they are not just pets. They are allies, partners, protectors. Yes, said the human gently, and that is why we raise them carefully. They are not tools. They are family. And when needed, they will protect family with everything they have. Cyrell knelt beside Rico, still amazed. I never thought I would see creatures so small, do so much, and so perfectly controlled. The human nodded. That is why humans have traveled far into the stars. We work together. We care for each other. And we trust in our companions. That combination is very powerful. That night, the station was quiet once more. Humans and Zirans moved through the corridors, checking on the predator's containment and making sure the systems were operational. The creatures rested beside their humans, tails flicking softly, eyes half closed but alert. For the Zirans, it was a night of reflection. They had seen humans and their adorable monsters face a real threat and succeed where their own weapons might have failed. They realized that power was not just strength or claws, it was intelligence, trust, and cooperation. And somewhere in the hearts of the Zirans, admiration began to grow. Humans were not just visitors. They were teachers of a new way to live, to work, and to protect. And the creatures, small, furry, and razor-clawed, were the perfect proof. As the twin suns dipped below the horizon, the humans sat quietly, their creatures nestled beside them. The Zirans observed from a distance, still amazed, still learning. The day had shown them something extraordinary. Humans and their companions were unlike anything they had ever encountered, and tomorrow, the Zirans would see more. For the humans' calm intelligence, combined with their creatures' instincts and loyalty, was a force that would continue to surprise and inspire. The story of humans and their monsters had only just begun, and the Zirans knew deep down that they were witnessing the beginning of a partnership that could change everything. The morning after the predator attack, the station was quiet. The twin suns cast soft light across the research halls, reflecting off the silver surfaces of equipment and observation decks. The Zirans moved cautiously, still amazed and slightly unnerved by what they had witnessed the previous day. Small creatures, razor claws and all, had taken down a massive predator without a single human being harmed. Cyrell walked slowly down a corridor, watching a small golden creature curl up beside a young human. She reached out a hand hesitantly, and the creature sniffed her fingers before pressing its head gently against her palm. She froze for a moment, then smiled. "It trusts me," she whispered. Yes, the human said quietly. And if you treat it with care, it will trust you even more. That is how we teach them about relationships and boundaries. Sorel tilted her head. But how can a creature that could tear through metal be so gentle? Because it understands respect, said the human. We do not train them to attack blindly. We guide them, show them kindness, and they learn how to balance strength with compassion. The Zirans began to realize that the creature's power was not just physical. It was a combination of intelligence, instinct, and emotional understanding. And it was all guided by humans. Director Thalrek called a meeting in the central observation hall. Humans, Zirans, and creatures gathered together. The human leader spoke first. Yesterday your predator was strong, dangerous, and fast. But together we managed it without harm to anyone. That is because humans and their companions work as a team. They trust each other, and they respect all life. Sorel raised a question. How can something so small manage something so large? The human smiled. Size does not matter. Understanding does. Preparation, guidance, and trust make even small creatures capable of facing great challenges. That is why we are able to travel the stars and face dangers humans on Earth cannot imagine. The Zirans exchanged glances. They had always relied on technology, weapons, and brute strength. But humans relied on something different: relationships, understanding, and cooperation. And it worked. Later, Sorel observed the humans teaching their creatures new skills. One small brown creature learned to move quietly through a maze, following subtle commands. Another golden creature learned to balance on a narrow platform while responding to a voice signal. The Zirans were fascinated. They are learning continuously, Sorel whispered. Even after yesterday, even after the danger, they keep improving. Yes, said the human. They are curious and intelligent, and they want to help. That is part of what makes them so remarkable. The day continued with more demonstrations. The humans showed how creatures could be both guardians and companions. They played games, performed tricks, and even helped Zirans with small tasks. The aliens began to understand something important. These creatures were not weapons, nor were they simple pets. They were partners in life. One Ziran guard, who had been the most fearful during the predator attack, knelt beside a golden creature and spoke softly. I never thought I would enjoy this, he admitted. It is friendly, loyal, and yet dangerous if needed. Yes, said the human. That is the balance we teach. They can protect, but they also love and trust. That is why humans call them companions. That is why they are family. Sorel decided to experiment. She placed a small obstacle course in the hall and called a few creatures forward. At first they hesitated. The obstacles were unfamiliar, and their instincts made them cautious. But as humans guided them gently, the creatures began to move confidently. They climbed, jumped, and navigated each challenge with precision. The Zirans could not stop watching. They adapt, Sorel said softly. They learn from guidance. Not just instinct, yes, said the human. That is why humans succeed in dangerous situations. We do not rely only on strength or technology. We rely on trust, understanding, and training. Our creatures respond because we respect them and they respect us. By midday, the Zirans began to mimic some of the humans' techniques. They tried guiding creatures gently, speaking softly, and showing patience. At first, the results were clumsy. The creatures hesitated, unsure how to respond to alien gestures and words. But slowly, they began to cooperate. Sorel observed closely. I see now. Humans do not just command their companions. They teach them, guide them, form a bond. And that bond makes all the difference. Director Thalrek, still cautious but intrigued, approached the humans. Your methods? They are different from anything we know. On Zerthia, strength and caution govern behavior. You rely on partnership. It is unusual. Yes, said the human leader. But it works. That is why humans have survived, explored, and thrived across the stars. We respect life, guide those we care for, and trust in cooperation. That combination is powerful. The Zirans began to realize the true lesson of the past 2 days. The humans were not just visitors. They were teachers. They showed a new way to think, a new way to interact with creatures, and even a new way to understand life itself. In the afternoon, the humans allowed Ziran children to interact with the creatures under careful supervision. The children were hesitant at first, worried about the claws and teeth. But as they followed simple commands and showed kindness, the creatures responded joyfully. They rolled, chased toys, and even rested gently in the children's laps. One young Xiran girl laughed aloud. "They are adorable," she exclaimed. "And yet, I can see their claws. They could be dangerous." "Yes," said the human. "They can be fierce if needed. But when treated with respect and care, they are loving and loyal. That is why humans call them companions. That is why we value them as family." By evening, the station had transformed. The Xirans were no longer just observers. They were students. They had learned patience, trust, and the power of cooperation. And they had seen firsthand that appearances could be deceiving. Creatures that seemed small and dangerous could be gentle, intelligent, and brave. Sorel knelt beside a golden creature one last time before nightfall. It pressed its head against her hand, tail flicking gently. I understand now," she whispered. "It is not just their strength. It is their heart, their loyalty, their choice to act with care. That is what makes them powerful." The human smiled. "Exactly. That is why humans have survived challenges that seem impossible. Strength is important, but understanding and compassion, that is what changes the outcome." Director Thalrek, observing from above, nodded slowly. "Perhaps we have much to learn from humans," he admitted. "Not just about creatures, but about life itself." The day ended quietly, with humans and their companions resting among the Xirans. The creatures curled up beside their humans, tails flicking gently, eyes half closed but still alert. The Xirans observed in silence, minds full of new thoughts. For the Xirans, the lesson was clear. Power was not only in claws, strength, or weapons. True strength lay in guidance, trust, and cooperation, and humans, with their small, sharp-clawed companions, had demonstrated that lesson better than any weapon or technology ever could. As the twin suns set, casting long shadows across the station, Sorel whispered to herself, "One day, perhaps we can learn to live and work like this too." And the humans, as always, smiled gently, knowing that the seeds of understanding had been planted. Tomorrow, the Xirans would begin to adopt the humans' lessons in more serious ways. The creatures would continue to amaze, protect, and teach. And the humans would continue to show that intelligence, empathy, and trust could overcome fear, even on a distant alien world. The story of humans and their companions was no longer just about curiosity or survival. It was about inspiration, respect, and the power of working together. And for the Xirans, it was a lesson they would never forget. The next morning, Xerthia was calm. The twin suns rose gently, filling the station with warm light. The humans and their creatures moved through the corridors with ease while the Xirans watched, still amazed by what they had learned. Over the past days, fear had given way to respect and curiosity had grown into admiration. Director Thalrek called a meeting in the central observation hall. Humans, Xirans, and the creatures gathered together. The room buzzed with anticipation. This meeting would mark the first step toward cooperation, understanding, and true partnership. "Humans," Thalrek began, his voice steady. "Your arrival has changed our perspective. We have witnessed your methods, your calm in danger, and your creatures' loyalty and skill. We admit, we have underestimated you." The human leader nodded politely. "Thank you, Director. We came in peace and with curiosity. Our goal is to learn from you as well, and to share what we know about our companions." Sorel stepped forward, her antenna quivering with excitement. "And we have learned more than we imagined. Your creatures are not only skilled, but they teach us about trust, cooperation, and empathy. That is something our technology cannot provide." One of the creatures, a small gray one with golden eyes, padded forward and gently nuzzled Sorel's hand. The Xirans gasped. It was a gesture of trust, comfort, and connection, a silent lesson they could not ignore. "Yes," the human said softly. "They show loyalty because we treat them as equals, as friends, and as family. That is why humans call them companions. That is why they are more than just creatures, they are partners." The Xirans nodded slowly, beginning to understand. They had always relied on technology and discipline to maintain safety and order, but humans relied on empathy, patience, and guidance, and it worked beautifully. Director Thalrek made a bold decision. "We wish to adopt your methods, not just for your creatures, but for our people as well. If humans can guide and protect their companions with respect and care, perhaps we can learn to do the same." The humans smiled warmly. "We would be honored to teach you," one replied. "It will take time, patience, and understanding, but it is worth it." The rest of the day was spent in lessons, demonstrations, and cooperative exercises. The Xerans learned how to approach the creatures gently, how to give clear guidance, and how to earn their trust. At first, the creatures were cautious, unsure of the new students. But as the Xerans spoke softly and moved carefully, the creatures responded with curiosity and warmth. Cyril watched a small group of Xeran children interacting with the creatures. At first, the children hesitated, unsure if the claws and teeth were dangerous. But one by one, they began to follow commands, offer gentle touches, and even laugh as the creatures rolled playfully on the floor. They are learning, Cyril whispered. The creatures are responding to care, not fear. It is magical. Yes, said the human quietly. That is the power of cooperation. When respect and trust guide action, even small beings can accomplish great things. The day passed quickly. By evening, the Xerans had formed bonds with the creatures. One young guard, who had been terrified of the creatures at first, now held a small brown creature in his arms, smiling nervously as it licked his hand. I never thought I could feel this way, he admitted. It is amazing, the human smiled. That is why we raise them with care. They are not just animals, they are teachers, companions, and friends. Director Thalrek looked around the room. Perhaps we have been too cautious for too long. Humans have shown us that fear is not the only way to survive. Understanding, cooperation, and trust can be even stronger than the sharpest claws or the most advanced weapons. One of the Xeran scientists, still holding a golden creature, nodded slowly. We have much to learn, but we are ready. The night fell over Xerthia and the station was quiet. Humans and their creatures rested among the Xerans. Some creatures curled up beside alien children, tails flicking softly, eyes half closed but alert. Others rested at the feet of adult Xerans, purring, nuzzling, and showing a gentle loyalty that words could not describe. Cyril knelt beside a small gray creature. It pressed its head gently against her hand. You have taught us patience, trust, and care, she whispered. And you have shown us that appearances can be deceiving. Sharp claws do not always mean danger, and small size does not mean weakness. The human leader knelt beside her, placing a hand gently on the creature's head. Exactly. Strength comes in many forms, and when humans and their companions work together, we become stronger than any challenge we face. In the days that followed, Xerans began adopting some of the humans' methods more widely. They learned to train their own creatures using gentle guidance. They discovered that patience and respect could transform fearful, untrained creatures into intelligent, loyal companions. Cyril watched proudly as alien children laughed and played with the creatures. They had overcome fear, learned trust, and experienced joy in ways they had never imagined. Director Thalrek addressed the humans one last time before their departure. You have changed our world, not just through your creatures' skills, but through your example. Humans, your courage, calmness, and understanding, have taught us more than we thought possible. We are grateful. The human leader bowed slightly. We are honored to have shared our knowledge. Remember, strength is not just in weapons or size. It is in understanding, cooperation, and trust. That is what makes humans and our companions strong. The humans prepared to leave Xerthia, their small creatures following obediently. The Xerans watched, admiration shining in their eyes. What had started as fear had grown into respect, understanding, and hope. As the ship lifted into the sky, the creatures waved their tails and chirped softly. The Xerans waved back, some even shedding small tears of joy. For them, the humans and their companions were no longer strangers. They were teachers, friends, and allies. Cyril knelt one last time, whispering to a golden creature, You have shown us a new way to live. A better way. We will remember, the human smiled, and we will always be ready to help if needed. Our companions and humans travel across the stars for a reason, to share knowledge, protection, and friendship. The ship disappeared into the sky, leaving Xerthia bathed in the warm light of the twin suns. The creatures curled up beside the Xerans, and a new bond was formed, one that would last for generations. Humans had taught them something far greater than physical strength. They had taught them trust, understanding, and the true meaning of cooperation. And somewhere, high above the planet, the humans smiled, knowing that their companions, the small, razor-clawed creatures, had done more than just protect. They had inspired, they had taught, and they had created a bridge of friendship between worlds. From that day on, the Zirans no longer saw creatures with claws as threats. They saw partners, friends, and guardians. And whenever humans returned, they would be greeted not with fear, but with open arms and hearts full of respect. The story of humans and their companions became a legend on Zerthia, a story of courage, empathy, and the incredible power of working together. A story that reminded the Zirans and all who heard it that true strength is not in teeth and claws alone, but in trust, love, and cooperation. And so, humans and their adorable razor-clawed companions continued their journey across the stars, leaving a trail of admiration, friendship, and inspiration wherever they went.